Hello, wonderful people of Charlotte County in Florida. My name is Matthias, and I'm the Dark Sky coordinator at Cedar Breaks National Monument in Utah. Dark Sky coordinator is just a fancy word for astronomy outreach educator, but Dark Sky coordinator sounds really fancy. This month, I'll be talking about Mars with you. Just this week, we had two successful missions arrive at Mars and enter the Martian orbit. And next week, we will hopefully have a successful landing of the Perseverance rover after its 8-month journey to Mars. So let's get going and talk about Mars. Mars is the Roman name for the Greek god of war, Ares. Mars is the son of Jupiter and Juno, also better known under the Greek names Zeus and Hera. Mars and Venus in the Roman mythology had, among other, two sons named Deimos and Phobos, and the two moons of Mars are called actually Deimos and Phobos. This image of the Martian surface has been taken by one of the many Martian observation spacecraft. And you can see here this gigantic canyon or crack on the surface of Mars. This is called Valles Marineris, and it's one of the largest canyons in our solar system, 2,500 miles long and about 120 miles wide. And the Grand Canyon might actually fit in one of these little branches here. That shows you something about how big this canyon is. Let's talk about how we can see Mars in the night sky from Charlotte County. This is my little planetarium software. It's called Stellarium. And in Stellarium, I have entered the location for Port Charlotte and the date and time for February 19th in the evening, just after sunset. So here is our little celestial sphere. If you look in a westerly direction, about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, about 50 degrees above the horizon. And how do you measure 50 degrees? So 90 degrees is right on top of you through your head here. It's called zenith. And if you stretch out your arm, the width of your fist is about 10 degrees. So if you line up the bottom of your fist with the horizon, and then you stack 2, 3, 4, 5 fists on top of each other, that's 50 degrees. And you should be able to make out Mars as a orange, little reddish dot if you have clear skies. If you have trouble finding it, then on just the evening of the 19th, look for the first quarter moon, which is pretty bright, and then go just right below it a little bit. You should be able to see Mars. What other stars could you observe from Charlotte County? So it's close to Fort Myers, so light pollution is pretty bad, but you should be able to make out the brightest stars. The brightest star in the night sky is Sirius, which is part of the constellation, the Big Dog. Let me turn on the constellation lines for you. So here is the Big Dog. Then you should be able to make out definitely the corner stars of the constellation Orion, the Hunter. The bottom is Rigel, and the top is Betelgeuse. Let's see, what else could you see? This is Procyon, which is the little dog. In a southerly direction, just above the horizon, you could see Canopus. And then let's see, maybe the Big Dipper or the Big Bear. So the Big Bear is here. And then if you connect the back end of the Big Bear, or Ursa Major, actually Ursa Major, which is part of the Big Bear, and you connect the back two stars, which are bright stars, and you go to your left about 5 times that distance, then you find Polaris, which is the North Star and directly in the north. So, you know, try to go outside and look for some of the brightest stars. The moon is always beautiful to look at. If you find the moon, you probably also see Aldebaran, which is part of the constellation Taurus, the bull. And today we're actually celebrating the Chinese New Year, which is the year of the metal ox. So a little bit of cultural history for you. Happy New Year if you celebrate Chinese New Year. How do we get to Mars with the spacecraft? The launch window, which means the window where we can launch spacecraft to other planets in a very advantageous way, where we use the minimum amount of fuel, is about every 26 months. The constellation of the planets and their respective position on their orbits around the sun is such that Earth is a little bit behind Mars, but because it's on the inner orbit, it moves faster. Mars is here on the outer orbit and moves slower. So when we're moving up, when we're coming up behind Mars, we can launch spacecraft during our launch window. And then during about a 6 to 8 month journey, the spacecraft basically moves with the help of rocket booster and from the momentum that it gets from the orbital speed of Earth. It intersects the orbit of Mars about here, 6 to 8 months later, and then we'll just use rocket boosters to brake and slow us down so that the Martian gravity will take hold of the spacecraft. And these things are just simple, basic physics, thanks to Isaac Newton and Johannes Kepler, who are famous for coming up with the laws of gravity. And Kepler basically formed the laws of planetary motion. Let's talk about the various missions that are exploring Mars. We have several orbital spacecraft that are taking images and other scientific measurements of the Martian surface and the Martian atmosphere. And then by the time you're watching this video, we hopefully had a successful landing of Mars 2020 or Perseverance rover. We also have the InSight lander on the Martian surface, which is stationary. We have Curiosity, the rover, which is still operating on the Martian surface. And then we also have Tianwen-1, which has a rover that it's attached to the satellite, to the spacecraft orbiting Mars, but it's not supposed to land until May or June this year. This is an image of the Martian surface. You can see here the North Pole, and down here, the South Pole, where water actually exists in ice form. Mars is about half the size of Earth, about 15% the volume of Earth, and about 11% of the mass of Earth. The partial pressure on the Martian surface is 1% of the atmospheric pressure that we have here on Earth, and therefore water cannot exist in liquid form, but it does in ice form. So here is the projected landing site for Mars 2020, Perseverance. Curiosity has been operating here for 9 years in around Gale Crater, and we try to pick locations on Mars where there is evidence that there might have been a lake or water must have been flowing. And with these rovers, we have the ability to dig up the surface, for example, and analyze the composition of the soil and maybe always try to look for biological markers. Inside is the lander, which means it is not moving. And then we have the Opportunity and Spirit landing sites where they were operating. We have Viking and Pathfinder and Phoenix and Viking 2. This is another map of the Martian surface. You can explore this yourself with Google Maps. And the landing site for Perseverance is here in Isidius Planitia, a plain about here at the western edge, where this is assumed to be a prehistoric lake. Mars is thought to have been a very wet planet about 4 billion years ago. And why Mars dried out over the last billions of years, we're not really sure as scientists. But it's probably because Mars is smaller than Earth, wasn't able to hold on to its atmosphere, and the strong solar wind probably is responsible for driving away the atmosphere. And if we have a magnetic field in a planet, that protects us from the solar wind, just like here on Earth. And Mars might or might not have had a very strong magnetic field, so that would have protected its surface and the water from the strong solar wind. So let me zoom out again a little bit here. By the way, this is an elevation map of the Martian surface. Blue indicates below the average zero elevation. Here we have a gigantic below the average Martian elevation, Hellas Planitia. We have here, you can see again, Valles Marineris, which is one of the largest canyons in the solar system. And then we have somewhere here, let me check. This is the largest mountain in the solar system, Olympus Mons. So if you want, you can drive around Mars with this wonderful map, and you can see some of these features in this map that looks like gigantic rivers or outflow channels into the lower lying part of the Martian surface. If you go to nasa.gov, you'll find a 3D model of Perseverance. This is about the size of a small SUV. There are highlighted segments of the rover that you can click on. For example, here is the mast with the various cameras. We have a power drill attached to the rover that can extend on this arm here. You have a power source. This is a radioisotope thermonuclear generator, individual suspension of the 6 wheels. It will take samples and also put these samples in tubes and leave them on the surface for a potential sample return mission in more than 2.5 years by the European Space Agency. The rover also has a little drone, a little helicopter attached to it that will try to fly in the very thin Martian atmosphere and survey the terrain around the rover. So this is an amazing little scientific rover robot. It actually also has a microphone, so we can hear the Martians speak if they live there. It's a joke. If there were ever Martians on the surface, they probably have long gone. So go to this website if you want and learn more about this amazing piece of technology. I hope you did enjoy this little clip about Mars. Hopefully you'll get to see it in the night sky in the following weeks, and be safe out there when you're allowed to travel again across the country. I hope to welcome some of you at some point in the summer or in the fall at Cedar Breaks National Monument. And then together we will look at this wonderful Milky Way that you can see here from Cedar Breaks National Monument. And I will leave you with this little poem about the planet Mars by S.M. Melton. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.